Okay, so let's see the practical app you are going to develop at the end of these lessons. So this is the source code you will be developing, and once you run it, you will see a web application, and this is a survey system you are going to develop, a real world survey system, and this is a complete project where the admin can log in, can register if they want, or they can log in using their previous credentials. Likewise, and sign in, and then admin will be taken to the admin dashboard, which has lots of options such as to define the questions. These are all coming from the database dynamically, and you will learn how to add, edit, delete the data and populate the data dynamically likewise, and define the questions so the data will appear dynamically. And then you will learn how to create settings pages and save the data to the database once again, and see who are the respondents who has taken this survey, and with the log information. You will learn how to create sophisticated search dashboards, and you will learn about how to filter data and search, where admin can find information about different users who has taken the survey. So and then if I log out, and then a normal user, if a normal user comes to the home page, a normal user can start taking the survey. A user can register if needed, or if not, a user can take it anonymously. User will be able to take this anonymously. Let's say if this is test test2 user, so test2 at, so, and if user says no, I don't want to register, and if user says next, then the survey will start anonymously, and all the data is coming from the database. So you learn about connecting to a remote database, which is not in this computer, it's on a remote server. So you will learn how to do that, and then you will learn how to take the survey questions, and there will be multiple survey questions. So I will just fast forward this. So I fast forwarded the questions, I just click next and answered them. And final question is, what is the state? So if the user says okay, this is the state, and click next, and these are the questions I answered. So and then the user or the respondent can review them and submit the answers. So then the data will go into the remote database. So you will learn about how to save it, and click next, and then it takes the user or the respondent back to the home page. So this is the app you will be developing at the end of these lessons. And the specialty of this app is it's a data driven app, and it's completely dynamic, and all the data is coming from the database, and there is admin dashboard, a sophisticated admin dashboard, and a separate user sessions. You will learn the complete source code from the scratch to develop this. So let's go and develop this application now. Let's start doing it now. Hi everyone, welcome to ASP.NET Complete Project Survey System Part 13 User Registration Continuation. So this is a continuation of a complete project, so make sure to look at the previous parts. We'll be, something very important is we will be doing this similar to real world developers doing a project. So make sure to look at this series and get an idea of how real world developers are developing projects, apps. We'll be using these tools for this lecture, and make sure that you cover these prerequisites before you do this lecture. So in this session, we are continuing from the previous session to save the data, respondent registration data into the database without using any SQL helper class, because the next lesson we'll be using a SQL helper class. And also in this lesson, we'll be running an SQL in the backend to verify whether the data has been saved. As usual, it's going to be practical demonstrations. So now let's go and continue the previous project from where we stopped it. So as where we stopped in the last lesson is, we were discussing that we have to return a status code, result to the calling function. So at the moment this is returning void, but we need to return a result. So the best practice is, because we will have to return this kind of results from many methods, not only from this method. So the best practice is for us to create a separate like a DTO class where we can store a result code and a message, and then we can reuse that DTO. DTO means data transfer object. So we can use that DTO class. That's a technical term we use whenever we want to send data back and forth. So don't worry about that. So the DTO class, we can reuse it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a DTO class. DTO stands for data transfer object. DTO class to store the result code. Let's do it now. So as a best practice, I'm going to put the DTO classes, data transfer object classes, into a separate folder, and let's call it as DTO. DTO stands for data transfer objects. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class and I'm going to call it as result status. And why am I creating it a class as a class is so I can reuse it in many other methods. So I'm going to create a new item. Make sure to go to code from here and select class, and then we have to give a meaningful name. So let's call it as result status. So the result status, basically what I need is I will need to have a let's say result status code, whatever the status code, whether the result is let's say correct or incorrect, and a message. So now what we will do is we need to generate getters and setters so we can use them as properties. So what I'm going to do is let's make them private, so that what we can do is, let's say, what we can do is we can have public getters and setters, right? So let's put them as two private attributes, and we will right click and say highlight it, right click and say quick actions and refactoring, and you can say encapsulate fields, right? And properties still as fields. So I'm select this option. There are two options. So what this does is it generates properties matching these attributes. So they are public. So now outside functions and classes can straight away use the result status code and get it or set it, and the message either get it or set it. Awesome. So now we have a result status code class. So we will use this in our methods now. Let's do it now. So what I'm going to do now is inside our register respondent method, I'm going to create an object of that class result status. Now I'm getting an error because I have to import the namespace. Now the result status class is inside this namespace. So what I have to do is I have to make sure that I am importing this namespace at the top of this class over here. So I have to say using the DTO, then the error will go away. Awesome. So now I got the object of the DTO class. Now I can set the status code and the message. So for example, in this case, if the email is already registered, let me write 2 lines. These are the 2 lines. So on that result status object, I'm setting the result code as number 2. You can give any code here, it's up to you. But I consider number 2 as email already registered. So now I know, okay, number 2 means email already registered. So before I forget, I'm going to write a comment to say this: if the status code is 2, it means the email is already registered. So let's put a comment, and I'm going to also at the same time define some other codes as well, like 1, 2, 3. This is result state code 2, but let me put 2 more, or like this. So what does this mean? So this, I'm putting a comment to say, okay, this is registering the respondent, and it returns status code. So number 2 is, as I said, email already registered. I will consider number 1 as registration successful, number 3 as error in registration. So far I define only number 2, but in a little while I will define number 1 and 3 as well. Awesome. So now let's see what's next. Okay, so if this is not equal to -1, meaning email is already registered. That is why it's not -1. But else, so else means, okay, if this is not equal to -1, else means it is -1. So here it returns -1 if the email does not exist. So what I have to do now is I will have to, because the email does not exist, so that means it is a new user. So I need to register this email and register this user. So let's do that now. So for that I have to connect to the database. Because of that I'm going to put this code, but make sure that the brackets are all well in place. So I'm getting a connection because I know now I have to register this user because this email is not registered. And now what I have to do is I have to write the SQL. So the SQL is a insert SQL. So we have to insert to the respondent registration table. So let me write the code and fast forward it. Okay, so this is the code. So this create a string, and this is the SQL to insert into respondent registration table, and you are inserting the fields email, given name, last name, date of birth, phone number, and the values you will be giving as parameters or attributes. So email at given name, last name, date of birth. So carefully write this line, but this is only still it is a string, we have to execute it. So the next step is to now to get the data. First thing is I have to do some cleaning or cleaning of some data. So let's see what that is. So some pre-preparation of data, because here I'm inserting date of birth and my date of birth is coming from a text box. So I have to get that the value, which the date of birth value which I took from the text box, and I have to convert it into a date time object. But for that, when I create a date time object, I have to pass the year separately, month separately, the day separately. But in my text box, the year, month and the day, they are all as one, basically they are separated with a /. What I have to do now is, so the value inside this is a string. It has the year, month and the date, but separated by /. So I have to remove the / and get only the date, month and the year. So I have to, we call it as split. You have to split and get, and then I have to convert them into integers, and then I have to pass them into date time creation. So what I said, I'm going to write the code and quickly fast forward it. Okay, so this is the code for that. So what you do is, in a situation like this, you take this, because in the text box these values are separated with the / if you remember, when you run this and select a value from the calendar, when that value goes to the text box, if you remember, there's a /. So that you can say split, it's a method, and it splits it from the / and it puts the data into an array after cutting from those places. So when it splits it, first of all, according to our text box value, the first value is going to be the day, then the month and the year. So once you call the split method, once you get it into an array, you can take that array and say element 0, which will give you the day, element 1 will give you the month, element 2 will give you the year, then you convert them into integers, and then you got 3 integers, and now you can pass it to the date time class into the constructor, and it creates a date time object. So why did I do this? That is because in our database, the date of birth is of type date time. It is not a string. So we need to make sure we create a date time object. Awesome. So that is a bit of pre-preparation and cleaning of data. So now the next thing is we can open the connection. So I'm going to say this connection, I'm going to open it, and then the next thing is we have to create a SQL command, because we have to execute this string query, plus we have to pass the attribute or the parameters. So how you do that is you will create a SQL command. I just wrote the code and fast forwarded it, but make sure the curly brackets are well in place. So what you say is you create a SQL command, you pass this query and you pass the connection, and it creates a command, and using will make sure the using keyword that this after the execution this object will be clean, will be memory managed. Awesome. Now the next step is you have to give the parameters one by one. When I say parameters, what I'm referring is this in your SQL insert statement, you have said at email, at given names, likewise. So let me show you, it's over here. So these you have to give the real values. Where are the real values? They are coming over here as parameters. So you have to take these parameters and pass it into these slots. So how you do that is, let me write the code and fast forward it. Okay, so this is the code for that. So you will say this command dot parameters dot add with value. Then you will pass at email, at given name, whatever you have given here, and you pass the actual values coming from the top as parameters, right? Okay, so this is how you assign the parameters to the query. Awesome. So let's see what's next. Now the next thing is you can execute this query. So now it's all ready for execution. So to execute it, you write this command and then it executes the query. It inserts the data. So the method is execute none query, and it inserts the data and it returns a result. So if you look at the API, let's look at the API for a second. So if you look at the API, you can see that this method returns the number of rows affected, right? So which means if you look at this coding, so when you run this, that's why we are getting a result. So this returns, that's what this says, it returns the number of rows affected. That means if it is successfully inserted, it will return, okay, 1 if it's one record, right? For example. But if you look at this, it says if there is an error, it will return -1, right? So, or negative value, right? So if you look at this, if it's unable, right? If there's no statements, if there's no result, or if there's an error, if there is nothing inserted, it returns -1. So that is something very useful for us. So we can put a if condition and figure out whether this query has been executed. Because if the result is like a -1, which means if it is a negative value, we will know, okay, the record is not inserted, right? So you have to be very careful with the brackets. So if the result is -1 or negative, which means it has not successfully inserted. So then we can update the result status, let's say as status number 3. So I'm going to fast forward the code. Okay, status code 3. That is why in the comment I said number 3 means error in registration. So now we got that situation. Then we can say else. Else means it has successfully inserted. In that situation, what I can do is I can set the status code to be successful. That is why I created 3 status codes. And also I would like to, once I insert it, right now, else means it has successfully got inserted. Then if it successfully inserts, that means it's successfully inserting the respondent registration. And when it successfully inserts it, it will get a respondent registration ID, which is auto generated. If you look at the database in the previous lesson in this complete project, you will see once you insert a record into this, the ID is auto generated. So the ID in this table is the respondent registration ID. So I need that because if you look here carefully, if the user is already registered, I got the respondent registration ID and I put it to the session. That means for existing user, if the email is there, I'm getting the ID, put in a session. That's fine. I have to do the same thing when I insert a new registration. So when I insert a new registration, also it inserts a new record now, and this record will have a ID. That ID is the respondent registration ID. So what I have to do is I have to get that ID. So to get that ID, I can call the same method like which that get respondent registration ID by passing the email, right? So I'm going to write 2 lines of code and then I'm going to fast forward it quickly. Awesome. So the same method what we call earlier over here to check whether the email exists, I can call the same method now because I know I inserted a record with this email. So definitely there is a registration ID because I executed the query. So now I'm passing the same email and I'm asking the new ID of the new registration. That is what comes here. And then that new ID, which is the respondent registration ID, I'm putting it to the session. So if you are not clear of what I said, what you have to do is make sure to listen to what I said once again, go back and listen once again because it may be slightly confusing to you, but if you listen to me say multiple times going back, you will understand the logic here. Awesome. So let's see what's next now. Okay, so finally we have to make sure that we are returning this result status because we need to return this. So any calling method can get the result status. In that case, the return type of this method cannot be void. So because of that, instead of void, I had to put, because I'm returning a result status, I had to put it as result status. Awesome. So it is a complex logic, but it is done successful, and this will make sure that the data is inserted to the database. So let's see what's next now. So now we have to come back to the button click because we did a lot of things. So let me just remind you once again where we were. So we were in the respondent registration and we had this button and then we clicked it, but then we went and wrote some helper methods. So now we are back in the button to complete the button. Now I'm not passing the connection string as I told, though I initially thought to pass, but because I'm getting connection, I will not pass it. Now, so now I know that this method is returning a result status because we programmed it that manner. So because of that, I'm going to put a result status to store the return value. Okay, so let's see what's next now. We are almost done. We are almost finishing it now. Okay, so we are almost done. So just to see if this has successfully saved, we will use this label. This label is label message. So we'll just put a message into this label to see if it is successfully saved or not. So let's do it now. So what I'm doing is I'm going to check the status code like this. Be very careful with the curly brackets, right? Be very careful with the curly brackets. So if the status code is 1 or 2, right, which means if you look at your comments, status code 1 or 2 means registration successful or email already registered. In both these cases, let's say I want to inform the user and say, okay, okay, it is successful, right? Something like that, right? So let's do it. Let me do it now. Now, actually speaking, because we are doing experiment, we don't need to check this even. We can simply say for that label message dot text, we can simply say store from the result status dot message because we got a message. We just need to see the message only, right? So this is enough for us to see whether this is working. So now let's run and see whether this works. So if I run this, I have to come through the steps. And if everything is fine, this should store the record into the database, right? So let's say start survey because this is the beginning, and let's say John. So I have run in my database. I have put a sample data called John. So if I say yes, register, and if I try to register John, let's say John Davis, let's say phone number, and let's say if I select the calendar value and click register, let's see what's going to happen now. So I click, see it works. It says email already registered because now I will show you the database. You will see this is there. So let me take you to the database. So you remember we were discussing about the database in a previous lesson. So have a look at that, and then you will understand what I'm going to do next. Let me show the database now. Okay, so you remember we were using this MySQL, MS SQL server online from somi.com, and then we explain to you how to go to this. Look at the previous lesson in this series about the database of the complete project. So now you can see when I run the query, it says John is already there in this table, select. So that is why it was giving me this message telling email already exists. So now let's insert a new record and see what's going to happen. So now I put a test email called hello@gmail.com and registered this user. So now let's see the database. And now if you run the query in the database, you can see the hello user has been registered. And the respondent registration ID is number 18. So now this will go to the session, because if you remember the logic. So this shows you that we have successfully inserted the user registration. So if there's an error, it will inform that there is a error. Awesome. So this lesson explained to you how to insert data to the database and how to store a user and how to register a user. Let's see what's next now. Okay, so we completed the practical demonstration, and you learn about how to save the data to the database, and we didn't use the SQL helper. We will do it in the next lesson. And we run the SQL in the backend. That is what we did at the end, and we checked and verified that the data is saved. So in the next lesson, we will continue this further and take your knowledge to the next level. We were using these references for this lecture, and make sure to look at the next lesson in this complete project to develop this. So we will be developing it similar to real world application developers. So make sure that you look at the next lesson. We are very excited to see you in the next lesson, and see you all in the next lesson.